there are a number of contingencies. So number one is earnest money. So with most of these, there's two questions: how much and when. How much earnest money? When is it due? That's the question. So sometimes you'll go in on a deal, and if it's very preliminary, you're very hesitant about the deal, the seller's super motivated, then maybe I don't put down much earnest money at all. If I'm competing with an on-market deal and there's a broker, they're going to expect a lot of earnest money. Off-market deals, typically you don't have to put as much earnest money. Why? Because they're not taking that property off the market for you. So if you've got a public listing with a broker, they've got the clock ticking. They've got a 6-month listing agreement, whatever it is. They've got 6 months to sell that property. You put it under contract for 3 months, they've lost half of their time to you. That's why brokers are so particular about who are you? Is it going to close? Because the clock is ticking. They have to take an offer from somebody who's going to close inside of their listing period. Okay. And so they're getting earnest money to make sure that you're real, make sure that you're going to close, make sure that you're the one that they're going to get the deal done with. Otherwise, they'll put it under contract with somebody else. They're spending a lot of money on advertising. Off market, not so much. You put it in a contract, you don't buy it, they haven't lost anything. It's business as usual. So you hear me lean into off-market properties constantly, and that's a big part of the reason why. So earnest money, how much and when. Then we have our contingencies. So we have inspection, we have finance, appraisal, and title. So these are the big five. The big five contingencies when we're going in and making an offer on a deal, when we're negotiating a purchase and sale agreement. And again, the question around most of these is how much and when. The two most common for canceling a deal or walking away from a deal are inspection and finance. Normally a contract will say something like, I have 30 days to do my physical inspection of the property. At the end of the 30 days, my earnest money, we call it going hard, or becomes non-refundable. So like a contract might say, I've got 30 days to do my inspection, and then it'll close in 45 days, something like that. So inspection contingency is typically very broad. It means anything related to the physical condition of the property in my sole and subjective discretion. That's the kind of language I'm looking for. Sole and subjective discretion, meaning it's subjective. I acknowledge it's subjective, but it's my personal discretion. If I choose to walk away from a property, I can. So that's the kind of language that I like to use. Sole and subjective discretion. Finance contingency is if I can't get the loan approved, if I don't like the interest rate, whatever the case may be, if I can't raise the funds, if I'm syndicating, et cetera. So these are the two most common. Now, typically the inspection contingency, I would want at least 30 days. And with the finance contingency, I want 30 to 45. Now, the reason is that with the finance contingency, you have to submit the application, you have to submit the underwriting, you or your loan sponsor, and then it goes through underwriting, and that takes a while, right? They have to go to their loan committee, they have to come back to you and ask for more financial documents, et cetera. If they come back and the loan's not approved, and you're 2 weeks into this deal, you need to have the ability to walk away. And that walk away power is what these contingencies protect. They protect your ability to walk away from the deal, get your earnest money back, and the only money you lost was the money that you spent on due diligence. So with the inspection contingency, we're going in and we're looking at the physical condition of the property. Now, these are the things that I always inspect with the inspection contingency. Taking notes about the inspection contingency, these are the things that you should write down. So what I don't like to do is I don't like to send out an inspector. Sometimes I will, especially if I'm not local to that property. I will send out an inspector, but generally what happens when you send out an inspector, the inspector comes back and says, hey, you should get that looked at. Inspectors typically aren't licensed in most states, right? So you'll have an inspector who used to be a roofer and went into property inspection. And so I'd be very confident in him looking at the roof, but I wouldn't be confident in him looking at the plumbing, right? Not everybody can be an expert in everything. So I'm not against inspectors. It's just not something that I typically will use unless it's somebody that I respect. Also, they tend to do more residential. Here's what I do. I send out a roof inspector, So I send out an actual roofer, call up a roofer, got this property. Can you go look at it? What's the condition of the roof? I'll ask them, hey, can you tell me how old the units are, when they need to be updated, if they've been serviced? And by the way, especially with HVAC, you don't want to use the person that they're already using. Okay, because guess what happens if you hire the HVAC guy that property manager already uses to look at their HVAC? He's going to come out and be like, yeah, it's perfect. It's the best HVAC system that's ever been had. Roof, HVAC, electrical, plumbing. And I will say that the parking lot and the structure, I kind of put them in as one. And that's something that I may or may not actually send out depending on how old the property is, what the condition of it is, et cetera. And then also under the plumbing, I would put kind of a subcategory of sewer scope, the sewer line. A lot of plumbers won't scope the sewer line. A lot of times it's a different contractor. So roof, plumber, electrician, HVAC, and then physical, structural, whether it's the foundation, whether it's the parking lot. And that's kind of a case-by-case basis. But I always send out HVAC. I always send out a plumber. I always send out a roofer. I do like to do sewer scopes, et cetera. If the parking lot's rough, I'll have a parking lot guy go out and look at it. Now, when I'm doing those inspections, what am I looking for? That sounds like a lot. It's like, oh man, I got $100, got to pay this guy $200. Now I'm at $1,000. Why am I doing all this? Well, guess what happens? The roofer says there's some roof leaks. It's going to cost $50,000. I say, write me up a proposal, take pictures, give it to me in a formal format, send me a proposal. The HVAC guy's like, yeah, these all need to be updated. We need new filters, whatever. You need new AC units. I say, great, send me a proposal for your best units, the nicest ones you got. Same thing, sewer scope, all this kind of stuff. Because then guess what I do with those proposals? I compile them and I do an inspection objection within 30 days. I go back to the seller and I say, hey, Mr. Seller, love the property, love the financials, everything looks good. I was happy with the number we were at, but this property needs $200,000 worth of work. It needs $100,000 worth of work. It needs $50,000 worth of work. Well, guess how much the inspections costed you? Maybe at most it cost you a couple $1,000s at most. And the thing that sometimes does get expensive is the HVAC inspection, because they'll have to go look at each HVAC unit, et cetera. That can get a little pricey. But let's say it's $3,000. And I can do an objection for $50,000, $100,000, $150,000. Talk about a return on investment, right? If I can get $150,000 better deal by spending a couple $1,000s on inspections, it's worth every penny. Guess what you can't do with a property inspection? Can't do that because they're not giving you proposals. They're not putting numbers on there. They're not like HVAC is going to be $2,000, whatever. It's just, you should get that looked at. That's what the inspection reports say. So that's why if I do get an inspection, then I try to do it early on and I immediately send contractors out to give me proposals on all of those items that the inspector found, knowing that in my mind, he may have missed certain things, et cetera. And so it's worth sending contractors out. I think it's worth every penny of whatever they charge you. And you can develop relationships with those contractors and they will send you deals. I've had HVAC people send me deals. I've had plumbers send me deals. I've had electricians send me deals because they're going out and inspecting properties that are rough. And people are like, oh man, I can't afford to fix all of this. And this is such a headache. And they say, hey, you thought about selling? My buddy Jackie is an investor. I give him a call. That's a great connection for you to build within your network is a commercial contractor. So inspection is 30 days, finance contingencies 30 to 45. Oh, the earnest money is typically 7 to 10 days, but earnest money it's very much negotiable. So a lot of times I'll go in and I'll do like $5,000 earnest money, 5 business days. And then at the end of my due diligence contingencies, let's say the end of 45 days, then I put down $50,000 additional earnest money deposit at the point that it becomes non-refundable. So you can break it out like that. I like to do that because everybody knows the earnest money is fully refundable up front anyway. And there's no chance that they're going to get to keep it until it becomes non-refundable. And so to keep the earnest money down up front, I'll do like $5,000 up front, $50,000 in 45 days or whenever these contingencies expire. these two, appraisal and title. So typically an appraisal contingency will be like 30 days and a title contingency will be like 15 days. So appraisal is if you're getting a bank loan. If you're not getting a bank loan, you probably don't need an appraisal. Some private lenders will require an appraisal, but not all. An appraisal, the lender uses an auction system to keep it separate from you and your lender for them to call an appraiser, a third-party appraiser, come out and appraise the property. An appraisal does not determine actual market value. So appraisals are done in reverse. Appraisals are done by giving the appraiser the price, giving them the contract. Our appraisals always at the buyer's expense.